This is the Pacific PowerShell user group, and this month we're going to talk about generating GitHub pages with PowerShell. First, the obligatory, group promotion. Pacific PowerShell user group meets the second Wednesday of every month, generally at 6 p.m. Pacific time. You can please join the Meetup. If you're interested in speaking, reach out to the organizers. That's myself and Chris Leonetti. And every month we have a speaker and discussion topic. We broadcast and record meetups. We are broadcasting on Twitch, and we record them and put them up on YouTube. This month's topic is generating GitHub pages with PowerShell. First, the obligatory intro slide, in case anybody doesn't know. I do switch it up every time, though. So hey, I'm James from Start Automating. I'm an ex-Microsoft employee and a longtime PowerShell nerd and the builder of many tools and the maker of many subpar GitHub pages and a few kind of good ones like the PowerShell Guide and 4-bit CSS. I love to script and script sites and learn and teach, and today I'm going to try to teach you a little bit about what I've learned about GitHub pages. So, let's get started. What the hell are GitHub pages? Well, might be a canonical way to answer, but they're great. They're free hosting for static sites, as long as that static site is open source. They're easy to publish. You just go to the repository settings and pages, and you basically click OK, select a branch if you need. You can publish to any domain with free SSL. You can just add a CNAME and some DNS records. And it works really well with workflows, so you just go ahead and check changes in. Okay, so that's the basics. Questions right here on GitHub workflows or GitHub pages before we get any further into it. All right. Well, let's go a little deeper. So GitHub Pages is a brand name. You can use any number of starter workflows. They got a wonderful repository here that will let you get started publishing them any way you'd like. So I believe CI here. Yeah. So Ada, Android, and Blink, C++, Clojure, D, yada, yada, yada. They've got enough of these for you to figure out how to publish your GitHub page any way you want, but they will by default not use any of them. They will use Jekyll. For those that are not familiar, Jekyll is a tool built in Ruby that generates static sites and pages. It's so old it calls them blogs still, but it is pretty awesome, and we're going to talk about it a bit more tonight. This module is a bit of a beast. Let's try to tame it. Jekyll looks fairly ordinary. It's just a mild-mannered templating language. This probably reminds a lot of people of handlebars at this point, but it's double curly braces value to embed a value. It does have some traits that will annoy you. This is my least favorite. If you have an else if, it is ELSIF. I do not like this. This is probably going to annoy you too after a lifetime of typing else. It does have some traits you might like, though. It supports Markdown and anything else, so you basically throw files in a directory, yeah, you got a website. It also has layouts, which are very nice. So you can basically say any page is laid out according to a layout. Just throw another file in another directory, and congratulations, you can lay things out however you'd like. Also has these things called includes, and these allow you to include little pieces of data. Just snippets of a page or of HTML or Markdown. Cool so far, right? It is a little strange. One of the ways I've started to put it is it's like handlebars with extra spokes. The else if being one thing. The other thing to understand is that it's actually mostly a thing called Liquid, which is a templating language made by Shopify. Just going to bring up another link here. So I've had too many of these open, but you can find the information on it. Shopify, GitHub.io/liquid/ there is your language ref. Quick note, this is a GitHub page. So you can build almost any kind of site you want within GitHub Pages and Liquid. It's a pretty well-known language. It's pretty stable. It's used by large customers, even if they were customers you might not necessarily like. And it's pretty easy to get started with. What truly makes it beastly, though, is data. And this is kind of where I got to sink my teeth in as a PowerShell nerd. So let's talk data-driven Jekyll. Jekyll is very data-driven. Any file's front matter is a YAML object. Front matter is the first few lines in a YAML header where you have triple dashes and then key, value, key, value. Okay? And you can access this with something like this. Page, my custom value. Any site's configuration is as well. So any configuration values will be a property of site. So if you have a value in a config YAML file, it just works on its way on up. Where it gets really exciting for PowerShell and for everybody, though, is any JSON data, actually any data in JSON YAML or CSV or TSV, underneath underscore data is available in site.data. So you can have like site data, my custom file, or site custom or data, my directory, my file. It will surface a hierarchy of objects if you have a hierarchy of folders, which is extra nice. Make things even nicer, you have site.pages, which contains all pages, and subdirectories count as categories. So if you just make a directory in your Jekyll site and you call it foo, its category is foo. Moral of the story is everything in Jekyll is data. And I think this is basically the furthest I've ever got through a talk without really being purely PowerShell centric. So let's talk about scripting a static site. How do we do it? By making it easy to set stuff. If you know PowerShell, this is already easy. Set content, sets file contents. New item, dash path, a path, force, value, a value. We'll create a file and any new directories with contents. And convert to JSON, converts objects to JSON. Works for underscore data just fine. So scripting simple changes are really easy. And it would be easier if we had a module. And this is where we get to the product placement new fun. So let's go ahead and open up, actually, let's let it give me some links. PSJekyll is a new module, PowerShell plus Jekyll. It's at least twice as monstrous. We can check it out on GitHub. And it is fresh off the press, just had its first release 51 minutes ago. So very new module. Have fun. You can also see it running at psjekyll.powershellweb.com, which is, of course, built with PSJekyll. And let's walk through its basic README. You can install it the same way as any module, import it the same way as any module, and then you have this wonderful psjekyll.site as a way to access all of the information in a Jekyll site. If there is any file with a config YAML underneath the current directory, it will count as a site. Otherwise, the current directory will count as a site. You can go ahead and change the configuration just by setting a value. You can go and set data the same way. And you can go ahead and create pages the same way too, with metadata. You can use it as a GitHub action, which will run every psjekyll.ps1 file in your repository, and any changes will be checked into the current branch, or a target branch. You can also pull this down as a container, and this is actually kind of the nexus of the thing, is I gotten asked to create an easy Jekyll image because there wasn't one available, especially with Jekyll and PowerShell. So I made one, and you can go ahead and pull it down like so, and then you can start an interactive terminal here on port 8069 that runs it. Now, a couple of fun bonus features here. You can also pass a repository to it, which will clone that repository, pull down the latest bits of it, and then display a website for that. You can also mount a folder, display a website for that, or you can let it display itself, which would be a default, or technically any website in the current path when it launches. So that's the quickly read through version of its README. It exposes a few PSJekyll commands. The highlighted ones are new, start, and stop, although stop is basically stop job. Start PSJekyll will start a local Jekyll server. New PSJekyll for now calls Jekyll. It will be doing more fancy stuff. The bulk of the customization comes in by being able to do this sort of thing and run it as an action. It also is exposed as $PSJekyll. You might have noticed from some of the demos we already went over. And PSJekyll : so as the module and the root of the module. This is a PowerShell drive. And fun quick side note here, I found this is a wonderful way to shorten up your path for screencasting and avoid leaking any information. We already covered you can use it as a GitHub action and a container image. It is, again, very hot off the press. It's still cooling down, and it will have more improvements coming. Pausing for questions, comments, oh my god, what have you done, sort of things. Anybody got anything? We're going a little quick tonight.
Not for me.
When you say you can pass it a repository and it'll build the help structure, is that parsing the comment-based help of the repository's different functions and scripts?
No, not at present. It might if we feel like it needs to. What it is doing is simply pulling down that site and launching a server for any Jekyll site found within that repository. So you can basically treat any repo as a test GitHub page locally-ish. I'll show you if you want. I mean, we're about to go into demo mode. If we want to start off there, that's cool by me. I don't care.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see that.
Okay. So let's cover the site stuff real quick again. PSJekyll current site is the root of the site. It is alias to PSJekyll site. I will be trying to make this more like how Jekyll's site object works for consistency. That is, I'll try to make it so that it exposes data files underneath and data within the page, but it's not quite there yet. Welcome, Stephen. I regret to inform you that you missed the most dad jokey portion of the evening so far.
Doggone it.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking Jekyll. I've already got past most of the jokes on monstrosities.
Oh.
And we're about to go into demoing PSJekyll, which is a new module out there, and showing off pretty new logos.
Do you have your secrets encrypted so that they're not visible? Instead, they're hide?
Oh, that's bad.
I mean,
Damn it, you challenged him.
I did. I really did. And also, no, you shouldn't have secrets published on a static website for the last time. This is how you get hacked. If you put your secret on a static website in a plain text file, you're going to be hacked.
Yes.
I promise.
All right. Sorry to interrupt. I didn't want to miss. I just flew in from Raleigh, North Carolina, so
that's all right. I mean, we can pause for a bit of product placement here. Steven, what did you just fly in from?
Yeah, I was doing the the PowerShell Saturday that the Research Triangle PowerShell user group was putting on.
Oh, nice.
And they gave me a name badge, as you can see.
Is that for Mr. Magoo?
It's well, they said they got it wet, and so it kind of absorbed a little water or something. They wanted something big to match my PowerShell logo in the back.
Okay.
So thank you, Matthew Gill, for starting this awesome trend of giving me huge 3D printouts.
I refuse to participate. 3D printouts that are large take a long time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. All right, where were we?
We were about to show off some Jekyll and CI/CD and containerization. But first, we were covering the basics here. That again,
Okay, so
PSJekyll is this nifty new PowerShell module. You can get it on GitHub. There's a new
oh, heck
PowerShell
yeah.
org for PowerShell and web development. It's called PowerShell Web. Anybody can join. PSJekyll.PowerShellWeb.com is its website. Of course, it is built in Jekyll. And PSJekyll, the module, exposes $PSJekyll, the variable, and a property, .site, aka current site, that is the root of the site. And any config file beneath the current directory makes something a site. If there is no config file found, the current directory will be considered a site. Change the config with something like this. Just go ahead and provide it a hash table. It's kind of important that it's ordered if you don't want it to keep changing, but if you're just using it to rapidly set it, go nuts. You can go ahead and set data in the same sort of way. And here we go ahead and basically set the name of a data path and the value we're setting into it. We can set an include by passing basically 2 strings. So path, value, whatever content we wanted to create as an include. And we can set a layout the same way. So real easy structurally to work with. There'll probably be a few more commandlets coming in the next release, but I was trying to get this one out the door quickly. So let's take a look and talk about it. And the first question that had come up was using it in container context, because I had talked about it briefly. So let me pull my current branch. Also go git branch, because I'm still on the first one. I'm going to check that out. Okay, I'm just going to go git stash, because that's quicker. Check out main. Pull. That's better. All right. So now we're up to date, and we're doing this live. So we're going to go pull this. You can tell it's the first time I've actually had to pull the latest, because every other time I've had a branch in history. So it's going to take a quick second, and I'm going to need to fill air. For those that don't know, Docker is a great way to have a VM, basically a container that contains an operating system and a main thing to run, and lets you run it relatively safely and securely. That is, the container can't hurt your operating system. So Docker's nice. You should get to know it, learn it, love it. It's a great way to run things inside of a nice cage. And what we're doing right now is we're downloading the image that PSJekyll produces that contains all of the prerequisites needed to run PowerShell and Jekyll together. The PowerShell is about 50 megabytes. You can blame the rest of it on the Jekyll and the Ruby. Okay, now that we've pulled that down, I had promised we could see a Docker run of this. So let's... Sorry, Stephen.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go ahead and keep that there, but provide another repo as a argument. Okay? And we're going to see if I get embarrassed. So far, yes.
Red text.
Fresh off the
This is
presses.
where I can say all of Steven's demos work.
Ouch. Ouch.
And it's an inside joke from PowerShell Saturday.
Oh, you want to fill me in before I get more hurt here? Oh.
Not while you're recording and on the live session, no.
Don't make him cry.
I'm not going to cry. There's no crying and demoing.
Dang, Clem. That's hilarious.
I mean, there really probably shouldn't be, but I'm absolutely sure there's somebody that has cried while giving a demo.
Okay, do you want to be sorting out your demo and I can go to
my
story
demo
time?
should be good. We'll see if my demo is good, but
Oh, okay. Is it still running?
it's serving now. I'm just going
Oh, heck
to
yeah. So red
server
text be
import
damned. Let's
and
go.
forgetting
Not
to put in
secure.
HTTP instead of HTTPS.
Oh, sweet.
And actually, to be really fair, it didn't do the clone. So that part's broken and I'm going to need to fix it. But it did serve itself. So I'll live. And, you know, that's the thing about releasing software. You always need to release updates too. The thought exercise here was to basically see if I could build something to make static sites a little bit easier, and I feel pretty happy with where it is. I feel like it has room to continue to grow, and anybody present or watching in the future is welcome to help it grow. Let's get into some code, shall we?
Yes.
That's a little terrifying. Let's get out of our image here for a second. All right. So I'm going to close all files, and it's going to yell at me and say, hey, you should have finished updating those ones. And I'm going to say, don't save, I don't care. Fascinating story, right? We got a normal smattering of files that I haven't checked in yet, but the one that does build the site is in there and will be getting a little bit simpler over time. Here's where we get into the funsies. Okay. So first, I'm trying to build a data-driven site, so I want to throw a bit of data in there, and I started easy. I was like, I don't want to update this every commit. I just want to know when it builds. So I throw in the current date. And there we go. Now I have set the domain of the site, told it when I was last built, and now we start to get really crazy. I go ahead and create some PS module files. First one's info, which is just going to be some JSON object. And I want the name, version, description, copyright, company name, author, and tags. Then I want my exports of my module. And this is all custom stuff.
Question.
Shoot.
Your tags are a hash table?
The tags are a list of strings. But
okay.
For me, they ended up duplicated, so I ended up, picking out unique ones. And
I was
forcing
curious
them
about
into a list.
that expression there. Okay,
Oh,
thanks.
that's actually a good quick thing to cover. This is a Joyo select object here. In case you don't know this trick, select object will obviously take, name of property for property, but it will also take a hash table like this. And that'll generate a dynamic property. This can be called either name or label, and this expression is a script block that will calculate it. $underbar, as almost always, is the current value, the current pipeline value.
Also, pro tip on that, you can do N and E when you're doing it at the command line. So if you're doing select,
like this,
then that's, yeah. Now, of course, I'm lazy, so I always do lowercase. But if you're going to put it in your script, your code like this, do it like James did, because this is the right way to do it.
Cool. So Next, I'm going to throw in all the exports, and I'm getting a little fancier than I need here, and quite frankly, this still will need some work. I'm probably going to make a function to synchronize all of the PowerShell metadata into data files, because that seems what would be obvious and good. But right now I'm doing it the air quotes hard way, and I'm just creating an ordered object for each command, you know, with the type of command, its definition, parameter names, all the parameter information. Then I'm taking all the function names, all the commandlet names, all the alias names. Aliases are really easy, so I might as well just go ahead and throw them in with their name and definition too. All
So
of this is
I
available
have
as
another
site data.
question.
Shoot.
Apologize. I have another question. Can you go back up to the ordered hash table? Are you
This.
passing that into a value? Okay, so yeah, that for each is going into the PS module / exports.
Yes, which is in turn going into the current site's data directory,
Okay.
which
Okay.
all is being handled by some PowerShell magic and extended types here. We can
Awesome.
go into how that works if you want. But this is just all the data that I'm throwing into my site. Then
Okay.
I'm setting my config. Oh, I'm doing this really quickly so I output all the files that have data. That'll take all the changes, make sure they get checked in. Then I'm doing this, where I'm creating the configuration. I need to update my description. Actually, I probably should use the module's description, but, you know, nobody gets everything right on the first try. Adding a URL and giving it a palette and an analytics ID and a default font and trying to make animate CSS work as well and a default layout. Anybody got questions? Somebody looks like they might have a question.
Well, I think I'm the only one with a camera on. Were you talking about me?
I think so, yes.
Ah, dang. I guess I was busted on that one. No, I was actually wondering if Consolus was the KDE version of Consolus font.
No.
Because it's spelled with a K instead of a C.
No, this is another project that I have.
Surprise.
Yes. And this is color schemes from terminal brought into web.
Oh my goodness. Okay, no rabbit holes. I've already distracted you.
Whoa. Kawanga bones.
What in the... Okay, we'll come back to that on another
Hey, I'm just
episode in the future.
literally naming the current palette on the screen. That's all.
Okay.
Anyway.
Good
So I'm
grief.
setting a default palette. I should add a palette selector later. I'm setting, or I'm outputting the current configuration file because I want that to get checked in. This, I don't feel like should be in every one of the sites, but it's just the quick way that I did a thing, or relatively quick. I have a bunch of little include and layout templates, and this goes and turns them into files by changing include or template to use that template file name and its output. And we're just going to kind of ignore that for a second and show a few uses of this, like the fun one, like a site tree. So actually, let's take a look at its implementation here. This is a bit of PowerShell that returns HTML, which is in fact liquid. I am sorry for the inception factor, but that's modern day web development. This goes and figures out all the pages by depth and then gives you a nice link hierarchy around them. And that's one of those things that's like, what did this person just say? Could they just show me that? Yeah, I could just show you that. So I didn't have to write this tree. It wrote that tree. You do not have to write this tree. It will write that tree. This is every public page on there. Let's go ahead and click on some other ones and have some fun. Here's all the aliases. Need to make this table a little bit nicer, but here they are. There's all the functions, and in case you wanted to call it functions, there you go. Contributors isn't working yet. Let's see what other places I'm going to be embarrassed. Members isn't working yet. Shucks on me. What about releases? Yes! So this is literally my release markdown. My release object. This is part of the data that comes directly from GitHub Pages. We can go look at that one in a second. I'm happy it worked. There you go. Tiny bit of code. And you never have to type in your release information again. And I can go right over to it, and there we go.
So that tiny bit of code is a here string?
I mean,
Is
again,
that
we're
what we're
being a
looking
little
at?
inception here. It is a here
Yeah.
string that produces Liquid, which is the templating language in Jekyll and GitHub Pages. Okay? That walks over the metadata that a GitHub page has put into the site, because everything is data in Liquid/Jekyll, and goes to each release and gets the tag name of the release and the HTML URL and the release body, which is already marked down. And bada bing, bada boom.
So when you're looking at the code, you just need to take a minute to drink it in.
I'm going to put the code up side by side. It's actually shorter in
Because
this
it's
case.
liquid.
Oh.
He missed it.
Yeah, no, I was actually trying to, like, you know, take the compliment and continue to show the fun here, because
On line 3, is that then the equivalent to a for each loop in Markdown?
basically,
Or
but it
how?
doesn't have to be marked down. This could be a markdown file, it could be an HTML file, it could be an SVG file, it could be an XML file, it could be a JavaScript file, it could be a JSON file. You can generate absolutely any file type you want with Liquid syntax. Which in theory means we could basically make web servers that, like, serve up JavaScript that doesn't really have a script file and just exists as pure metadata, but that would be kind of weird and overkill. And that's me saying it. But yeah, it opens up a lot of doors. Just being able to for each over data opens up a lot of doors. The data built into GitHub is pretty nice. I have a Stack Overflow that goes and lists it all and links to where the hell I had to dig it up. But there's about 30 different useful properties, including all of the public repositories of a given project or org. And as you just saw, all the releases and so on and so forth. Let's see, it's also got contributors, and I think it has a few more pieces of useful information, like releases URL and zip URL, but I'd have to go keep looking. And again, fresh off the presses, there will be more releases. And as more releases come out, more of the GitHub metadata will be propagated into the default sites. Because my goal here is to make it easy to make GitHub Pages the default way, and I build a lot of GitHub Pages around PowerShell modules that could use a little bit more Zaz. So I'm giving them more Zaz. Let's see where we were and what questions we got. We were going down through this site. We've got repos, releases, contributors. We found out didn't work. Members, no. Functions we already showed off. Commandlets, this module doesn't have any. PowerShell tags. Ooh, that should be fun. Real quick. So this is tagged Jekyll and Docker and PowerShell Web and Container and GitHub Action, static site. Looks like there are a few other things tagged Docker. But hey, probably next to nothing tagged Jekyll. Fresh off the presses. And this is the first public module of PowerShell Web. So yay. No static site modules? That's embarrassing for us all. Come on, let's get on this shit. Sorry, that was a little bit more PG-13. All right. last thing that I'm doing here is I'm basically outputting all of the files from the site, all of the layouts, includes, and pages, which, again, make sure they get checked in. This is running inside of a GitHub workflow. Let's go to the page here. Take a quick look at that. So PSJekyll here goes and runs help out to generate all of its built-in documentation. And actually in this particular one, because it was the merged domain for the first time, it did not run itself. Let's go to that one, which we'll have. So basically go run our PSJekyll file, it spits out all these files, we check them in. Doesn't really have that many changes, but it pushes them anyway, and there we go. We're done. We got a static page. And a workflow you can customize basically to your heart's content. I do not care what you go ahead and put into your static page in terms of generation. I just slightly care that you can use PowerShell to do it. So, questions on this so far, on the demo that you've seen? Anything of curiosity or interest?
We have a question in the chat, but I don't know how much farther you want to go. It may be closer to the conclusion.
Let's check it for a second. Oh, the question is basically about using Platypus to spit out Markdown versus just slapping into Hugo and Jekyll. This is to help you do that. I'm using help out. You could use Platypus. This module just helps you make sure that's scaffolded in the right way for a GitHub page to exist. Because whether you're using help out or Platypus, there are certain things that it's not going to do for you, like stylize the page or provide links to releases. That sort of stuff is outside of either module's scope. Both of them are more focused on basically taking your PowerShell help and turning that into Markdown. And that's great, but we still actually need to, organize that Markdown in certain ways, add certain metadata to it to make it publish and look the way we want it to look. So this is basically trying to solve that problem space, but with respect to Jekyll in particular and GitHub Pages default. However, there is a reason the tool is called PSJekyll, not PS GitHub Pages, because there are lots of other ways you can do a GitHub page. Any static site generator will do, so we'll checking in a detached branch. You can RTFM and learn. More questions about where we're at right now.
Every time you present, there's just so much to digest.
I do get that a lot. This was a quick presentation for me, though. Like, this is a lazy one.
No need to flex on us.
Sorry. I just like going and like, this is, I threw this together in the last 24 hours and I feel good about its quality for that, but I don't like presenting on short time frames and feel self-conscious about the quality of them, even if I'm accepting of them. So, yeah. I'm happy with where this ended up, but it's had like 6 bugs so far and bits of bad demos here and there, and I'm self-conscious too. Sorry. Anyway, I will stop eating humble pie and talk about PSJekyll in action, although we kind of already did, to underline what it looks like inside of a GitHub action. You will have Sorry, must locate file. GitHub, workflows, build PSJekyll. I'm also being foolish here because
you know VS Code will find your files for you, right?
I do, and also I have a copy and paste example on the website, which I am not actually browsing to, though talking about something that builds websites. I love my contradictions. So this is running it on a current branch. You'd use something like this, or let's go to our copy-paste example, please. Something like that to run it inside of a GitHub action. Again, I will run any PSJekyll PS1 file and check in any output. And there you go, you can statically generate your page. I will be adding some workflows to synchronize issues and discussions because those ones sound especially fun. Because if I can basically create a workflow to track issues and a workflow to track discussions, then I can have a website around a repo that is up to date all the time, no matter how the repo is changing. Like as I'm working on the repository, it should be able to provide a usable browsing experience around what's going on. And thus, if I write good enough issues, I can have a good enough website. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I might still really suck at graphic design or web design. Graphic design, I think I'm getting okay at. Gilbert, you got your hand up. Questions? Comments?
We can't hear you, Gilbert. He has multiple microphones, I'm sure.
But all right.
Either he had a really good question or a really good compliment, and I'm not sure which.
I don't know, but we are about at the end, and we did see how it worked in a workflow. So, you know, this has been the Pacific PowerShell user group. We meet the second Wednesday of every month. You can join the meetup. If you want to talk, you know, reach out to the organizers. That'd be myself, Chris Leonetti, and sometimes Stephen Judd. Presentation will be uploaded soon. Please like, share, subscribe, etc. Yada, yada, yadas. And thanks for coming by. And we're going to stop broadcasting in a second. And maybe...
And keep a
switch
watch
from
out for our
beef to
next meeting.
turkey.
We'll have an agenda before the next meeting. Please keep a
Hopefully.
watch out for the next agenda meeting.
Thank you. And